Hi, good evening, and welcome to my series on paranormal stories. This is episode 11, and I would like to tell you the story of a conversation that my dad and I had. This would have been 2008, and he was on a cancer journey. And at the time, I was living in the East, and my parents were in California. And so there was a long distance between us, but I did my best to stay in touch with both of them. My dad every day, and my mom, she only wanted me to call every 2 weeks, so she had something to talk about. So I was calling them and trying to keep in touch with them, and best I could. And during that time, my dad asked me, and I think because I was the only person at the time that was going to church, my family was not in any way, shape, or form particularly religious. We're doing our lives, we're good people, hardworking people, but that was, in my memory, just never a thing. And indeed, I talked to other family members, and that was true always. Now, later years, I found out that my mom actually had been much more involved in Christianity as a child and a young woman. Her mother was very much more involved, my grandmother, Johanna. And so when my dad is now 87 and on this cancer journey, of course, all of us become much more concerned about where we're going to go and what's going to happen. So we were having this discussion about what happens on the other side. And so I, in an effort to help him kind of bring him up to speed on those sorts of things, and in my understanding at the time, and there were a couple of there was a movie called What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams, which at the time I thought was I thought a very good representation in my understanding at that time about heaven. And so I sent that to him, went to Amazon, ordered it, had it sent to him, and so he watched that movie. And I also sent him a cassette or player and this 2 cassette book, obviously on tape, called Letters from the Light by Elsa Barker. And she was recounting the life and actually of David Patterson Hatch, who was a judge in California. And the actor who was reading this book was wonderful and had the type of voice of someone you would imagine a judge from the turn of the century, I think probably 1920s, perhaps, something like that. Anyway, so I sent those to my dad, and he listened to the tapes and he watched the movie, and he came back to me, and his concern was hell. In the movie, there's that's depicted, and I think in a rather graphic way, and probably not even as graphic as it actually is, but that scared him, so he was really concerned about that. So he was asking me about that, and he was asking me if I thought that he would go there. And I said, no, I don't think so, Dad. I think that you've helped a lot of people through your life. You're a good person. And at the time, that was the best advice I could give him. So now we're into 2009, and it ends up that both of my parents died in 2009. My mom died in July of 2009, and my dad passed in August of 2009. Now, that conversation that he and I had, I did not tell that to anybody else. It just didn't ever occur to me. It was just something between he and I. So after my dad passed, I had to come out to California and go through the house and clean it out and put all of his affairs in order, which I did. And then sometime after I came home from that ordeal, because it was an ordeal, I was with him for the last 10 days of his life and took care of him, and that was my honor to do that, and I'm glad that I could do that. So I got home, and one morning my oldest child came to me and she said, "Mom, I had a dream about Grandpa last night." And I said, What did you dream?" She said, "Well, I saw him and he was walking towards a door, and he had on a sparkling white t-shirt and khaki pants, and which is perfect because that's usually what he wore when he was around the house. And he was walking towards a door, an open door, and on the other side of the door was light. And he looked younger, and he looked a little tired. So as he got to the door, he turned around and he waved to me, and then he turned back around and walked through the door into the brilliant light. And I was astounded that she would be the person that brought me that message. And she, of course, did not know of the conversation that my dad and I had had about that. So that was wonderful, because it was even better than if he'd come straight to me in a dream, because that was validation, more validation that was a true experience, because she did not know that my dad and I had had that conversation, and yet she was the one who had this dream and came to me and told me this dream, and it was exactly him coming to her to in a most personal way, to let me know that he had made it and that he was walking into the light. And then after that, even she had another dream of him, and she also had a dream about my mom later. And in that dream, she came to a place, another world, and she was able to walk up to his house and see him in the house, going about his day, which he would normally have done here on earth as well. And she thought that in this house she saw a blonde lady, and that would have been his second wife, who he loved very much. And he had lost her, I think 7 years after they got married. He'd lost her she had colon cancer, and she died very young. I mean, she must have been in her 40s, early 40s, and a very nice lady. And he often, one time when we were talking about that, and he asked if he would see her, and I said, yeah, you will see her. If she's there, and she probably is. And so, yeah, Dad, don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. And again, verification from my daughter. Again, she did not know that he had asked those questions. And then here it was, confirmation that he was indeed there, and that he was happy. So that's the the end of that story. Thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe and share if you can. And leave comments. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. And God bless.